You may remember this set from a couple of earlier videos that we did. This is the Gallo signature set that they very kindly sent me for free for me to review. I've loved this set. Really realized how amazing these paints were when I swatched them. I will link the video up here to when I swatched each one of them. I was like, oh my gosh, I totally undersold these paints to you guys. Well, I fell in love with these paints and I really wanted them for my database, and I asked Gallo, hey, I'm looking to buy all the rest of your colors. You know, could you offer me some sort of discount code for it? And they got back to me and they said, we'll just send you the rest. I was like, for free. And I was like, pardon, wait, what? Because I totally wasn't expecting that, and it's incredibly generous of them. So now I have this set, but also I have this set, this set, this set, and an extra color. What they've done, which I think is really clever, is they knew I had this set. They sent me these two sets. This is the natural and this is the classic. And then what they did was made a custom palette of the colors that were left over, so the colors that aren't in these sets, and then we just have one color, I think the dark forest, that couldn't quite fit into it. And so if you want to get all the colors efficiently and with metal tins to keep them in, the signature, the natural, the classic is what you need to get. And then these, and I will go through the classic, the natural, and this custom palette in 3 separate videos so we can take a look at them in detail, but also then you know exactly what the extra colors are that you need to buy on top of these sets if you want the whole collection. So in this video we are going to go through the Naturale 24 set. Let's have a look at the colors and the palette and everything. So here we go. So this is the Naturale set. I think it's beautiful soft palette. It's quite an unusual set in that it's all the softer tones, but I know for a fact, having been doing this for years now and talking to lots of you guys, that there are a good number of people who wants this softer kind of set that doesn't have so many of the sailors and the quins and stuff. These are all much softer tones, and we will swatch them as we go through them. So if you are one of those people who love the manganese and the ochres and all the softer colors, this is definitely a really good set to invest in. And I think it's a unique set that I don't see in a lot of other brands. A lot of other brands have the bright colors, whereas if you do have the more softer color taste, this is spot on. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at each color. I'm going to swatch it for you, and then we will talk about what pigments are in each color, and then we're going to talk about the set as a whole. First up, I'm going to read you out the description for this palette on their website, and it says our 24 color palette of exquisite earth, mineral and plant-based pigments from the Mediterranean basin to the forest of Sumatra. As a special, we are including the Tintoretto Linea Feltreco mop brush size 0 in every 24 color palette. Some highlights of the collection are the copper blue, a delicate green blue hue, the new green gold inspired by historical sap green made from ripe blackthorn berries, a vibrant Italian raw sienna from Badia or Badia, and our genuine Lapis Lazuli extra fine. This pan contains buff titanium PW6:1, jarosite PY43, gold ochre PY43, Moroccan yellow gold PY43, raw sienna from Badia PY43, Castile orange PR102 and PY43, rose madder genuine NR9, Ercolano red PR102 and PR101, Hematite intense PR102, Sartorio red PR102, Burnt Umber Brownish PBR8, Moroccan PR101, Potter's Pink PR233, Green Umber PBR8, French Ochre Sahara PY43, Green Gold PY150, PY184 and PG36, Green Earth Warm PG23, Green Earth Cool PG23, Copper Blue, that's PW4 PG7, PB15:3 and PY3, Zirconium Blue, that's made with PB71. Very excitingly, a Lapis Lazuli that is made with genuine Lapis Lazuli, Indigo NB1, Roman Black Earth PBK11, and finally Slate Grey PBK19. That is all the colors unwrapped. Now let's get on with swatching each one of them. I'm really excited. So we start off with the buff titanium that is made with PW6:1. That is the normal buff titanium. And we have jarosite. This is PY43. I found that this was harder to re-wet, but you're gonna get that with more natural pigments. I would say that is a quite translucent yellow ochre. This is the gold ochre, and this was much easier to re-wet. It's again made with PY43, which is natural yellow iron oxide. It smells amazing. When you re-wet these paints, the rosemary oil really releases and it smells really good. This is a much stronger, brighter gold ochre. Then we have Moroccan yellow gold, again made with PY43. So these are all same pigments, but we get to enjoy the variance that nature creates even within the same pigment code. Then we have raw sienna from Badia, and this was extremely easy to re-wet. It's very rich in color. It's got that really deep tanned look. Lovely. Castile orange next, and this is quite still yellow ochre, quite similar to the raw sienna from Badia right next to it, but it's definitely losing that yellow undertone, and this is more of a natural orangey color. We then have Rose Madder Genuine, and this is like a very soft, lot of particles in there as well. If you think of Potter's Pink but much stronger, a little bit of tinge of brown, then I think you get Rose Madder Genuine. Next we have Urcolano Red, and this was very easy to re-wet, very intense in color, lots of granulation happening when it's watered down as well. Then we have the Hematite Intense, and this is definitely a very intense hematite, not as dark or not as black as say the one we get from Roman Small. This is definitely more of a red earthy type hematite. Then we have Sartorial Red. This is a little bit harder to re-wet, certainly next to the hematite. It's got a more translucent look. The hematite is very much more opaque, whereas this, you can see the paper coming through from behind the paint. Burnt Umber Brownish, and this was very easy to re-wet and very intense burnt umber. This is gorgeous color. A lot of commercial brands do not have this intensity of burnt umber. Then we have Morello, and it's made, wow, that is intense. It is made with a synthetic iron oxide red. That is super intense. It's coming back up quite dark brown on this camera right now, but it's very intense purpley red color. Absolutely amazing intensity. Then we have the lovely Potter's Pink, and this is a very dusty, slightly violety pink, but it's definitely very intense. Some brands, they're very pale. in Potter's Pink. This is not that. It's very rich in color and a lot of granulation happening. Then we have the green Umber. This is a more translucent look. A little bit harder to re-wet than Potter's Pink. Then we have French Ochre Sahara PY43. This was very, very easy to re-wet. And in case you're wondering, I am swatching this on Bockingfoot Cold Press 300 GSM as always. And then we have Green Gold, which I've been excited to swatch. Oh, now that is, oh wow, that is so strong and intense. And it's got that bright yellow undertone of the PY150, which is the nickel azure yellow. But the first impression is like, it's like a matcha green. You know, Green Gold, they're usually very bright yellow and greenish color with a little bit of brown. This is a little bit more muted on the top, but then a very intense yellowy green underneath. Absolutely beautiful color. And I would say that this is quite unique for Green Gold. And when you water it down, you still get that contrast between the mossy kind of more matcha green with the bright yellowiness coming through under it. Then we have the Green Earthworm PG23. This is a lovely, lovely color. It's very similar to the one that I used to make when I made watercolor paints myself. And it's just a soft, gentle green, but this one is quite intense, even though it is green earth pigment. I think that's lovely. Then we have Green Earth Cool, and this is very interesting because I don't see other brands doing two tones of green earth. They come from different sources. So this one is normal PG23, and then this is PG23 Abbey Later, which I assume is where the pigment is sourced from. And this is gorgeous. You normally get this color green earth, whereas this is more like a cobalt dark green kind of color. Really unique as a green earth pigment color, and it has lots of granulation as well. Then we have Copper Blue. So this is all made without use of copper, but it's the color of that patina you get in copper when it ages. It's got PW4, which is Chinese white, PG7 phthalo green blue shade, PG15 column 3, so that's phthalo blue green shade, PY3 Hansa yellow 10G. So it's all bright colors, but because it's mixed with that Chinese white, it creates this gorgeous, gorgeous color that is opaque and warm pale blue. That is lovely. If you want a unique color that you don't normally see, that is amazing. Then we have Zirconium Blue. That is a beautiful zirconium, and the exact color that you would expect from Zirconium Blue. Lots of granulation again. And then, very excitedly, we have the Lapis Lazuli, and I am super excited to see how intense this blue is, because normally you get really pale blues and it's really sad and it costs a lot. Whereas, oh yes, that is lovely. Let's see if I can get more pigment out. I think that is the most intense lapis blue on the market. I've definitely seen a lot worse from big brands. I think Schmincke did one and it was really pale and it was really disappointing. For this intense lapis lazuli, genuine one, that is included in this palette for the price, I think is amazing, considering you get half pan. At the time of recording, this palette is 185 euros for this entire palette, and you get this good a lapis lazuli thrown into it. I think, I don't know how they manage it, but this is the most intense lapis lazuli that I have had the chance to try. I would recommend this just on its own. It's really good. This is another color that I'm excited to swatch. This is a genuine Indigo NB1, and not many brands do the genuine indigo. And commercial brands really shy away from doing natural indigo because obviously it's not like fast at all. But like as an indigo fan, I love the color indigo. It's going to be amazing to be able to swatch this. Oh, look at that color. Yes, that is the real thing. That is amazing. Whew, look at that color. Oh, it's such an honor to be able to swatch the genuine indigo stuff. I'm really genuinely excited to do this. It's absolutely beautiful, and I have a deep connection with indigo because you see a lot of indigo in Japan. It's a very traditional color, and this is just absolutely gorgeous. Wow, it's very, very intense, very easy to re-wet. Then we have the Roman Black Earth. Wow, this is intense, and it was very easy to re-wet. Lots of granulation because it's that PBK 11. I'm impressed with how easy to re-wet and how intense this color was. And finally, for this palette, we have the Slate Gray. This is a much softer, very light kind of color. It's a massive contrast after swatching these two colors, but it's very soft and nice and gentle. Very similar to buff titanium, but it's a cooler kind of color than the warm buff titanium. Welcome back, and all the swatches have now dried. I have also done the normal database swatching cards as well. I'm not going to go through them in this video because it'll be a really, really long video, but they will be on the website hopefully by the time this video comes out, if not within the next few weeks, and you can find more details about them. But it's been very useful to do these because it answers some of the questions I had about the color selection that this set has, that I wanted to know why certain things were chosen. But before that, let's have a look at the overall palette. I love this palette. It's softer, it's much more natural kind of colors. Let me just show you the signature one that we've seen before. So this was the signature one, nice bright colors, whereas this is much more muted, but not too muted. It has rich pigments and lovely colors, but they are all more earthy tones, softer tones. And we definitely had a lot more lower tinting strength colors. I would say 13 out of the 24 colors were either low tinting strengths or very low tinting strengths. So on the whole, it's a lot more lower in tinting strengths in average. However, that doesn't mean they aren't high tinting strength ones. They are very high tinting strength ones as well. So it kind of balances out nicely. I think if you have a palette that is just low tinting strength, then when you want a real punch in your painting, it's not going to be able to provide that for you. Whereas this certainly can do that. Now, one of the questions I had was this section of yellow ochre colors, and there was about 4 of them that were all PY43, and they kind of sit in the similar kind of hue spots in most people's palette. And I was like, why are there 4 of them? Apart from the fact that they're all beautiful colors and beautiful paints, I did the swatches, and what I found was that they all have very different tinting strengths. So I'm gonna also include the Castile Orange in this, but we have from the Jarosite, which is here, that is very low in tinting strengths, and then very low but a little bit stronger and a little bit warmer, and then 2 that are in lower tinting strengths rather than very low, and then a mid tint strength colors, which makes sense to me because yellow ochre colors are great as mother colors. That's colors that you want to mix with all the other colors that you're going to use in a painting to make the colors work together better. So for example, here, if you use the Castile Orange as mother colors, you're going to get a palette that is a little bit more warmer and stronger than, say, the Gold Ochre, which is going to get you that really pale, more spring, early spring, soft kind of colors. So even though I've never seen it in any other palette, I think this is a great idea if you're into mixing and using lots of mother colors. And it's definitely been designed by somebody that completely understands color theory and tinting strengths and stuff. I think it's really awesome and a unique feature that I think other palettes should do more of. Also, of course, this is the nature palette, so that's assuming that you love all these naturey, softer, more natural pigments. most of these colors are full of natural pigments. I do make note when I make these kind of videos as to what pigments are used for each color. I don't usually share this note because this is just for myself, but because I don't have space to write what each pigments are, I will put it on here. If you want to find out exactly what's in them, then please pause the screen and have a look at it and look up what you would like. But most of these are like natural red or yellow iron oxide, rose madder. They are comparatively fewer synthetic colors in there. There is the synthetic iron oxide red. There's a couple of nickel azo yellows, a couple of phthalo green blue shades, and a couple of Hansa yellow 10G. But on the whole, like compared to the signature or the classic set that are more brighter, these have mostly natural pigments, including the indigo, which I am very excited about, and I was really grateful to be able to swatch that as well. The highlight of this palette for me, let me think, is definitely the Lapis Lazuli. That is the strongest Lapis Lazuli I've seen so far. I haven't swatched all the Lapis Lazuli just because they're so expensive, but so far from what I have swatched myself and from what I've seen of other people who have swatched this, it's definitely the strongest I've seen. The other thing that really excited me was swatching the real natural indigo, because I've never done that myself, and it was really good to see what natural indigo looks like. The copper blue I think is beautiful, and it is definitely that kind of patinaed old copper kind of color. The Potter's pink was nice and strong pink. Some Potter's pink are really pale. This isn't. It's gorgeous. So who is this palette for? I think this is the palette for someone who paints with a lot of softer colors, so the manganeses and cobalts and stuff. If you have a lot of that on your palette already, then I think you are really going to enjoy this palette. Also, someone who has a lot of more softer, whimsical kind of color palette, I think would be great in this. Let me show you the colors that you can create, certainly by mixing these colors with yellow, pink and blue. I'm just going to lay all of this out for you. So when you look at the color mixes, most of them are nice, soft, whimsical colors, but you also have the ability to mix some really strong colors like here, over here, and the green gold. So it's a really versatile palette. Who this palette isn't for, I would say, is somebody that only likes working with the bright, strong, intense synthetic colors. I think this will be a little bit of an unwieldy palette for you, just because it's all natural pigments. Also, a lot of these paints have a lot rougher finish, just because it's not a commercially made, like very finely milled. This feels more crafted, handcrafted kind of paints, and so the particles are not a lot bigger, but there's definitely a texture to it. So if you don't like your painting having a texture to it, that to the touch, then I wouldn't recommend it. Also, this has a lot of granulating colors. Majority of this, as you can see, are granulating colors, so be aware of that. If you like granulating colors, go for this palette. If you don't, then I would avoid this palette. Overall, I think this is a great palette, and if you are a Gallo huge fan and you want to get a second palette that's slightly different from the signature palette, then I think this is a great set, because it gives you a different feature of what a Gallo can provide, and also give you like an alternative palette that is a little bit softer for those times where you want to paint softer color palette paintings. Huge thanks again to a Gallo for sending me this set and all the other sets that we're going to be seeing in this series. I am just overwhelmed by their generosity. As I was swatching all of these colors, I was trying to figure out what it was that was different in terms of swatching a Gallo paints to, say, commercially available paints, because handmade paints are incredibly expensive, justifiably, because they take so much work. I used to do this. I gave up doing that because it was just far too much work for what I can put into running a business like that. But then there's a question of, what is the money worth it? You know, is it worth paying all the extra amount? And for a Gallo, I absolutely think it is, because when I swatch and make these cards, I'm literally swatching like 100 of them at a time for each brand. And most brands, I've swatched 4 brands fully now. I can tell what each paint is going to behave like before I paint them, and I know they're very predictable and behave as expected. Whereas I felt like with swatching a Gallo paints, it was more like an experience, and I was getting to know new possibilities of what a pigment can do. It's completely different experience. It's a great learning experience for me in that, oh, okay, so that pigment can do more than I thought it could. But also really unique paints or pigments that are really hard to get hold of in commercial brands. So I had a lot of fun and I really enjoyed myself swatching these. This is obviously a set, but if you just want single ones, they sell them in single colors as well. Also in Jackson's, if you want to get any single colors, you can do that as well. I hope you guys have really enjoyed watching this video. If you have, then please hit the like button. If you are new to this channel and you enjoyed it, please hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching this video, and in the next video in this series we are going to be swatching the classic set, so do look forward to that, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.